You know that feeling when football just grabs you by the heart and refuses to let go? That was the mood across the entire country after that wild night of international drama. I woke up still buzzing, replaying the goals in my head as if they were some kind of cinematic masterpiece. Honestly, I had a whole plan ready for today's show, something with new colors on the screen and a fresh theme, but I chucked all of that aside because I could not stop watching those moments over and over again. Three goals that will live forever in the minds of every Scotland supporter, even though the scoreline had an extra one tucked in there. And I swear, the moment that overhead hit the net, I thought it might just be the greatest goal I had ever seen our national side produce. Maybe I was caught in the emotion of it all. Maybe it was just that instant rush of disbelief. But it truly felt like one of those once-in-a-generation strikes. Of course, we have had some belters in the past. Anyone who lived through the magic of those long-range screamers or those free kicks that had Hampton shaking will know exactly what I mean. But this one came with a level of audacity that felt different. And the strange thing is, even with a moment like that, it still did not end up being the biggest talking point of the night, because what unfolded later felt like something ripped straight from a dream, the kind of ending you imagine as a kid playing football on the street, screaming out imaginary commentary while you score from distance to send your country to the biggest stage of them all. Then there was that strike from Kieran Tierney. You could feel the weight of his whole journey behind that hit, the injuries, the setbacks, the constant battle to get back into rhythm. It landed perfectly, not just because of the technique, but because of the timing. When a player has been grinding through the harder months, sometimes football gives them a moment that makes it all worthwhile, and you could see exactly how much it meant to him. You could practically feel the emotion running off him as he celebrated. For someone who has had to push himself through some difficult stretches of his career, that goal must have felt like a massive release. And it is funny, as supporters, we always try to separate club life and national team life as if they do not influence each other. But moments like that show how deeply connected everything is. A player walks back into his club, changing room with a memory like that sitting in his chest, and it changes something. It lifts the confidence, sharpens the focus, and reminds him of what he is capable of when the pressure is at its peak. It is brilliant for Scotland, and it is brilliant for Celtic as well, because that spark he felt in that celebration is something he will bring straight back into domestic football. Even in the middle of all the joy, you cannot help but spare a thought for the man in the opposite goal. He had to pick those unbelievable shots out of his net all night, and there was nothing much he could do about them. Some goals are simply unstoppable, pure power and placement colliding in a way that leaves even the top keepers helpless. It is never easy being on the wrong end of strikes that become instant clips passed around the world, but that is the cruelty of football. One side gets its fairy tale, and the other is left shaking its head. A few other players found themselves in interesting situations during the break as well. Some were back in their national camps without getting on the pitch. Others were fighting for spots at next year's big tournament, and a handful already look certain to be there. And when you start listing them, you realize just how many Celtic players could be stepping onto that global stage next summer. A full spread of nations too, from Scotland to Japan to Canada and beyond, each carrying a bit of Celtic into different corners of the football world. For supporters, it adds an extra layer of excitement, knowing that when the tournament kicks off, there will be plenty of familiar faces involved. There are also those players hovering on the edge of their national squads, not quite locked in, but definitely still with a chance. For them, the next few months at club level become even more important. A strong run of form, a standout moment, a bit of consistency at the right time, and suddenly the door to the World Cup is wide open. That kind of motivation can transform players, and you can already sense a few of them sharpening their game as they try to force their way back onto their manager's radar. One of the most fascinating stories from the international break came from Japan's match, where Daisen Maeda was used in a role that raised more than a few eyebrows, left wing-back, but not the defensive version you might expect. More of an attacking outlet, constantly pushing forward, stretching the pitch, and linking up in ways that made the entire system flow. And the reviews from back home were glowing. When you pair that with the kind of formation the incoming Celtic manager favors, it suddenly becomes very interesting. It is like a preview of what he might be asked to do domestically, almost as if both national team and club football are setting him up for a similar style of play. Whether he stays long enough to shape that role fully is another conversation, but the signs from that match suggested he fits the idea perfectly. Now, all eyes turn back to Celtic and the situation with the next manager. There is a lot of talk swirling around, a lot of confident rumblings from different corners, and plenty of people claiming to know exactly how close things are. What seems clear is that negotiations are moving, even if nothing official has been put out for the public yet. Every bit of reporting from different countries seems to point in the same direction. And when sources from both sides of the ocean begin lining up with the same story, it becomes harder and harder to imagine that this is anything other than the final stretch before the announcement. The anticipation is building, the excitement is building, and you can feel that something big is about to unfold. What makes all of this even more gripping is the sense that Celtic are standing right on the edge of a new chapter, one of those moments where everything feels a bit uncertain, but also strangely promising. Supporters have been refreshing their phones every few minutes, waiting for even the faintest hint of progress, and you can tell the tension is starting to build. Each passing day has come with whispers from France, from America, from anyone connected to the club in some way, and all of them seem to be pointing towards the same man. It has reached the stage where you almost feel like the announcement could drop at any moment, and yet there is still that tiny part of every supporter that waits for the official confirmation before letting the excitement fully take over. The most interesting thing about this potential appointment is the confidence coming from people who have actually worked with him or watched his teams up close. They speak as if they already know how this story ends, as if there is no doubt he will come in, stamp his identity on the squad, and elevate the level of football instantly. You do not often get that kind of unanimous belief from outside voices. Usually there is at least a bit of hesitation, a few doubters, maybe a handful of people warning the club to be careful, but this time it is different. The supporters of his current side sound like people reluctantly preparing themselves to say goodbye to someone they know is destined for something bigger. When you hear that kind of tone, it sticks with you. It is quite something when a manager from outside Europe's traditional spotlight starts being talked about as a future star of the global game. That is not just hype that comes from what he has built, how he has transformed squads, and how he has managed to balance structure with expression. Players who have worked under him talk openly about how he improved them, not only technically but in the way they saw the game. He is known for being someone who demands detail, but not in a rigid way that takes away creativity. He wants his teams to play with courage and clarity, pressing high, using the ball intelligently, and committing bodies forward with purpose. For a club like Celtic, where supporters expect both success and style, that kind of approach feels like something that could spark a real connection. Of course, there will always be the question of how a manager adapts to life in Scotland. It is a different type of challenge, with different pressures and with a fan base that demands intensity every single week. But that is exactly why this job appeals to people who want to test themselves. The expectations at Celtic are not small. You step into a club where trophies are not targets, but requirements, where every league match feels like a final, and where European nights come with an energy that almost shakes the ground beneath your feet. Some managers shrink under that, others thrive on it, and everything being said about this one suggests he is the kind who leans into the pressure rather than flinching away from it. Meanwhile, the players are preparing to return to training with a mixture of excitement and curiosity. They know things are changing. They can feel it in the air, in the way conversations around the club have shifted over the past few weeks. You can imagine some of them already thinking about how they might fit into a new system, who might be asked to adapt, who might thrive in roles they have not played before. A new manager always brings fresh competition, fresh ideas, and fresh motivation. The ones who have drifted slightly out of favor might see a new path opening up. Those who have been key figures will want to prove their value all over again. It resets the entire squad psychologically, and sometimes that spark alone is enough to elevate performances. And then there is the simple reality that Celtic have a squad with enormous potential, perhaps more than people give them credit for. The mix of young talent, experienced leaders, and players with the hunger to prove themselves on bigger stages makes for a fascinating foundation. Add to that the number of internationals who will return with their confidence boosted after this break, and suddenly the ingredients for a strong run are already sitting there. What the team needs now is a clear direction, a sense of identity, and someone capable of shaping all those moving pieces into something cohesive and dangerous. While the national buzz continues after Scotland's incredible night, the ripple effect is being felt inside the club as well. Players coming back from representing their countries will carry a different energy, especially the ones who are part of those unforgettable moments. That kind of adrenaline does not magically disappear. It stays with you, feeds your motivation, sharpens your mentality. For a club competing on multiple fronts, those returning players can often become the heartbeat of the squad in the weeks that follow. It is also impossible to ignore how many Celtic players might end up at the World Cup next year. That alone creates a fascinating challenge and opportunity for the new manager. Players fighting for places in their national squads tend to push harder, train harder, focus harder. Every match becomes a chance to be noticed, a chance to build momentum toward the biggest stage in football. And as a manager, having a squad full of individuals with that level of drive is something you embrace fully. All of this combines to create a moment filled with possibility. A new manager likely on the way, a squad full of talent returning from international duty, and a fan base that has rediscovered its spark after a night of pure footballing chaos. The club feels like it is standing at the edge of something fresh, of something with the potential to evolve quickly and dramatically, whether it is the tactical shifts that may come or the way certain players might reinvent themselves under new guidance. The feeling around the club is shifting in real time. There is a sense that the next step is about to arrive, and once it does, everything will move quickly. The players will adjust, the supporters will adapt, and the season will take on a whole new shape. And while the wait for official news can feel endless, sometimes the build-up is part of the magic. It is the calm before a storm that everyone sees forming on the horizon, a storm that could reshape the direction of Celtic over the next few years. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are skirling through Glasgow this morning, the kind that he folks stopping mid-pint and leaning in closer, wondering if they've misheard or if Celtic Park truly is about to witness one of the most unexpected arrivals in recent memory. Word drifting out of Lennoxtown hints that Sergio Ramos, the iron-browed enforcer Madrid legend, has penned a lightning-quick deal with the Hoops, turning the place into a cauldron of pure speculation. Nothing's been confirmed on the record, of course, but the murmur is growing louder than the Green Brigade on a European night. Sources close to the club are keeping their lips tighter than a winter wind off the Clyde, yet the rumour mill is churning fast. It's said the Spaniard arrived quiet as a shadow, swept through medicals with a calm swagger, a man who's seen every pressure cooker football can offer, and left staff glancing at one another as if they'd just spotted a ghost in full kit. If the talk proves true, Celtic may have just secured the most eyebrow-raising defensive signing Scotland's seen in decades. The faithful are already picturing him striding out under the lights, hair tied back, chest puffed like a battle-hardened captain, ready to marshal the back line with that unmistakable fire. Supporters on social media can decide whether this is a masterstroke or a fever dream, but the excitement is undeniable. Some claim he was spotted near the stadium. Others swear they saw a luxury motor slipping through the gates before dawn. And a few insist the board have pulled off a coup worthy of the club's grandest tales. For now, the whole thing hangs somewhere between myth and miracle, a rumour wrapped in thrill. But if there's even a flicker of truth in it, Celtic Park may be on the brink of welcoming a new sheriff, and his name whispered from pub to pavement, is Sergio Ramos. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.